What is your why? Before I even do my intro, you need to figure out why you want to start budgeting. If you don't know your why, pause the video and take some time to figure it out. Once you do, come back and finish the rest of this video. Hello everybody, my name is Kate Olaf and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over the step-by-step process of how you can make a budget and the benefits of doing so. I'd like to mention right off the bat that it does take self-discipline in order for a budget to work. By definition, a budget is a financial plan for a defined period of time. Notice that the definition says plan, meaning that it takes action in order for it to work. A tip I can recommend is planning for a budget day in your schedule. I personally have my budget day on my payday, that way I budget every 2 weeks. The benefit of planning a budget day is so that you won't miss it. If you never plan a time to sit down and go over your budget, chances are you're never going to start because you're always going to be pushing it to the side. So with that being said, let's get into these steps explaining how you can start creating a budget. The first step in creating your budget is to hit the like button and share this video. I know you may be thinking, well, this channel is not big enough for me to put it on my socials and shout it out. It doesn't have enough clout. And to that, I would say, I don't blame you. So if you don't want to share it on your socials, but you do like the content, maybe consider sharing it with a close relative or a friend. It would mean a lot to me to help my channel grow and to also boost my confidence to keep putting these videos out. So the first step in actually creating your budget is to figure out what platform you would like to use. There are many ways to go about this, but I believe that Google Sheets and Excel are some of the best platforms. Take note that if you already have a Gmail account, Google Sheets will be free of use to you. If you want Excel, it can be purchased with Microsoft's suite of productivity software for a $150 installation fee. Now, out of the two, Excel is going to be a more powerful tool because of its storage capacity, but for the reason that we're going to be using these platforms, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. Both of these platforms are very powerful if you know how to use them. But even if you aren't familiar with these tools, the purpose for which we'll be using them doesn't require you to know the ins and outs of the platforms. The only thing you're really going to need to know how to do is how to type. And you may be wondering, well, why don't I just use a free budgeting app like Mint instead of creating all my own spreadsheets? And I personally do not use those budgeting apps because when it comes to money, I believe that the old tricks are the best tricks. For instance, by personally making my own spreadsheets, I'm basically writing out my own budget on a piece of paper, but instead of paper, I'm using my computer. And most of those budgeting apps out there are trying to make money off you anyway. They subtly push investing strategies and credit cards at you. So I personally use spreadsheets because I like to know that I can change my budget at any time and that I'm in complete control and understanding. But whatever you decide to use, the steps I will be going over will help you to create your budget and push you towards a path of simplifying your finances. The second step for creating your budget is to calculate your bi-weekly take-home pay. When I say take-home pay, I'm suggesting that you calculate the monies you're taking home after payroll deductions and taxes. If you have more than one job or you have a side hustle where you're making some additional money, make sure to include this money in your bi-weekly take-home pay. The reason that you want to calculate your money bi-weekly is so that you can set aside money for bills, which we'll go into later in the video. The third step to creating your budget is to calculate all the expenses that you have to pay. And take note that there are two types of expenses that you will be paying. You will have fixed expenses and you will have variable expenses. Fixed expenses occur at predictable intervals and usually remain the same dollar amount through time. Variable expenses are where we have total control of when they occur, so they rarely ever happen at the same time each month and are usually always a different dollar amount. For example, a fixed expense would be a mortgage payment and a variable expense would be some clothes that you bought at the mall. You can always plan that the mortgage payment will be there each month, but you can't always be sure that the shopping expense will always be there. And take note that when recording your expenses, they need not to be bi-weekly, but monthly expenses. Once you figure out your monthly expenses, you can then split it in half to know how much money you need to set aside every paycheck. So if you get paid every 2 weeks, that means you'll get 2 paychecks every single month. So every paycheck that you receive, you should set aside half of your monthly expenses from that paycheck. That way, when you get paid on your second pay cycle, you will then have the full amount of money for each expense. For example, say your mortgage payment or your rent was $1,200 a month. Then each time you got paid, pay, you would then set aside $600 of that paycheck for your monthly mortgage payment. You then want to repeat this process for every monthly expense that you have. And the last step for creating your budget is to subtract your monthly expenses from your total monthly take-home pay. I know I'm jumping back and forth from bi-weekly and monthly, but your figures should come out the same considering you're doing your math correctly. It is really your preference on whether or not you want to calculate a bi-weekly budget or a monthly budget. So when you subtract your expenses from your monthly take-home pay, you should have a number left over. And that money that you have left over is called your profits, or the money that you can invest or spend how you'd like. Now, depending on your life situation, you can always go back into your budget and add expenses if you know that you're going to be paying that expense from time to time. For instance, if you have a gym membership, that is something that should be considered in your budget and not taken out of your profits at the end of each month. The more you can budget your scheduled expenses, the better off you'll be able to save and invest your money. Now, if you end up calculating your monthly profits and you get a zero or a negative number, the first thing to do is do your math again. If you do the math and you're still getting the same number, chances are you're not making enough money to support the lifestyle you're living. And that is the whole purpose of a budget. Because if you hadn't taken action and created a budget, you would have never known that you're not able to support your lifestyle. A budget's purpose is so that you can see the unnecessary expenses that you're paying and figure out a way to change your lifestyle and better profit each month. A budget will help you get on path out of debt and help you to start taking control of your finances. So when I first started budgeting, I made the mistake of thinking that when I budgeted, the money that I was actually budgeting came out of my actual bank account, but that's not the case. So if this is your first time of hearing the word budget and you're thinking that same thing, let me explain. The monies getting put aside in your budget are not actually coming out of your bank account in little miniature accounts for certain expenses. A budget really has no jurisdiction or control over your actual money. And so that's why I recommend you figure out your why when you want to start budgeting. Because at the end of the day, anyone can make a budget, but you need to choose for yourself to abide by it. It takes self-discipline to follow your budget and not spend money how you would normally spend it. But I will say you must try it. If you're having doubts, make sure to ask a friend or family member if they budget and how it's actually bettered their lives. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you genuinely enjoyed the content. Also, make sure to tap the notification bell, that way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. And as always, I'm Kate Olaf, and I'll see you in the next one.